This tutorial is about objects and classes. An object is like a digital version of a thing you can touch or interact with. Imagine a toy car. It's an object that has its own special features like color, size, and the way it moves. In programming, an object is similar. It's a bundle of information, attributes, and actions, functions that relates to something specific. Just like you can have many toy cars, in programming you can create many objects from a single blueprint called a class. Objects helps programmers organize their code and make it easier to build complex things by putting together smaller, understandable parts. The first thing we need to do is to create a class called address. Click on the control key and then left click on the mouse, select new file, and then for the Swift file, select it, put the file name, just enter address, so that will be the name of the class, which will be an object. Next thing to do is to type class, address, and now we need to add our properties to our address class, and the properties are normal variables, which are bar, street, string, that hosts the street, var city, string, var town, string, var postcode, string. Next thing we need to do is to create an initializer. And the purpose of the initializer is to initialize the properties of the object. So the initializer takes 4 parameters, which are 4 variables, and then assigns each value to the attributes or the variables of the class, which is address. Next thing we need to do is to create a method. So just type in function, full address, that returns a string, return, so we're returning street, and then city, and then town, and postcode. The next thing we need to do now is to create another class called person. Just select Swift file, type in person, create the class, person, and the person has, in this example, 3 attributes. The person class has 3 attributes, which are var, first name, string, var, last name, string, and var, address. That can be optional. So the address can be nil, you don't have to define it. And then the next thing we need to do is what we've done in the previous class of address, is to create an initializer. So just type in init and then select the initializer's parameter values for the constructor, and then it's self-populated there. So the initializer contains three attributes, which are first name, last name, and address. Then the next thing we need to do is to create a set address method so that the program can assign the right values to the address class. So just type in set address street string city string town string and then postcode string. So what that line will do, it will create a new address instance using the provided parameters, which are here. These are the parameters on line 22. The new address will hold the street, city, state, and the postcode information. So now we have to create a reference. So just type in address equals address and then pass the street, city, and town and postcode. And then the next one we need to do is create a print info method that will display all the information to the user on the console. So just type in func print info print add 2 new lines and then print name first name last name. If let address equals address, so if the address is not null, isn't nil, then display the address. So display the person's address, 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 full address. Else print address not available or address not found. Now I'll just compile it just to make sure it's correct. Compiled. So now the next thing we need to do to run the application is go into the content view, and then within the content view we need to delete lines 13 to 16. Also delete line 15, and then on line 14 just type in dot on a pair, and then we create our instance of person equals person, and then we add our person to the initializer or constructor. So it's the person's name, first name, and the person's last name or surname. And then we need to add the person's address. One, two, three, Main Street, City, London, Town, Stratford, postcode, E1, or if you're in another country, you might be using zip code, so that would be a zip code and not a postcode. And then the next thing we need to do is to create or call an instance of the print info method, so that when the application is running, the information will be displayed to the console. So just type in person dot print info. So print info is a function that we created earlier, which is this function here. So to display the information to the screen, we have to display it to the console, because this application doesn't have any GUI interface. So we have to use the console. So we go to view, select view, and then activate console. And then, yeah, that should do it. Let's see if it works. So that should activate the console. Let's run it now. So when we run it, we should see the name of the person there, the first name and the last name, and their address. And there it is. See, the name is Joe Blogs, the address is 123 Main Street, which was defined in the person object, I think, or the address object. Yeah, in the address object, yeah, it's defined here where the actual parameters go. So we pass the actual parameters to the person's constructor, and then pass the address parameters to the set address method, and then we call the print info function within the person's class. And here's the method. So this example just shows how to relate an object to another object, like a hierarchy. For example, a person can have one address or many addresses. And this was done by including the address object variable within the person's class on this line, on line 14. and then passing the actual attributes, address attributes to the address constructor. So that's how that was done. Thank you for joining us. If you found this tutorial helpful, please comment, like and subscribe. See you next week.